A cowboy doll is a young boy's preferred plaything until a flashy new spaceman action figure arrives. Join us as we chat about James's upcoming couple's costume, a missed opportunity at Disney World, and a baby that really shouldn't be in the front seat. You've got a friend in me as we find out if Toy Story stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says Gladiator with a glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah, and joining me, as always, is the Buzz Lightyear to my Woody, you, James Brief.
Aw, thanks, Alan. You do have a friend in me and a co-host in me.
Aw, and you are definitely the Buzz in this dynamic. One, because you love space, but I also just feel like that's more you. You're more Buzz.
I mean, I guess just when you think of Buzz Lightyear, you think of Tim Allen, more known as like a man's man. And when you think of Woody, maybe Tom Hanks and, you know, the bosom buddies. And that's the first thing that comes to most people's minds.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You'd say Tom Hanks to someone and they definitely think of bosom buddies. No, Tom Hanks is America's dad. I would rather be Tom Hanks than Tim Allen for several reasons.
I also was arrested in the 70s for selling crack cocaine.
Right. I remember that, which is weird because you were born in September of 79. So how you were able to do that is quite an achievement. How's everything going, James?
I'm in a good mood. Last Friday, we talked about a not very good movie, Al. Mm-hmm. We talked about 1987's Masters of the Universe.
Correct.
And I saw the movie and I had a wonderful time.
The new one.
The new one, right. The 2026 film from Amazon Studios. Had I seen this movie in 1986 or something, especially the opening scene, I think I would have just started crying of happiness. I mean, the opening scene, I'll just say without many spoilers of the movie, it was a live action cartoon brought to life and kind of taken seriously, but also then very quickly, the movie does have somewhat of a meta humor. I thought the acting was fantastic. I think the best thing I did was to go into this film completely 100% blind because I wound up seeing the trailer afterwards. And oh boy, I mean, the trailer was a fun trailer, but it spoiled everything.
Oh.
I would admit that the movie was probably a little bit long.
Okay.
There were one or two times that I thought we were kind of getting to the end, but I realized, oh no, we're only kind of right in Act 3 now, the climax. I think the movie was made probably 10 to 20 years too late.
Okay.
I think this is the film that should have come out right after Transformers came out in whatever that was, 2007, 2008. The theater that I saw it in was mostly people in their 40s and 50s. And there were a lot of applause. People really liked this. The end credits were fantastic. There were 3 end credit scenes, each one almost better than the one beforehand. The people cheering, and unfortunately cheering a wonderful sequel bait that will probably never happen. It's a shame because it's everything the 87 movie, you wished it could have been.
To say it's better than the 87 one, it's a very low bar to clear.
That's a very low bar.
Still a good thing. I read some reviews of the new Scary Movie, which I had really no interest in seeing, but those reviews were that Scary Movie 2026 was right on par with Scary Movie 2000. And, not as a compliment, that those two movies are just kind of on the same level quality-wise, which sucks, right? Like, you would hope that the quality will improve years later with any franchise. It doesn't always happen. Honestly, for the podcast, both of those movies came out on June 5th. It was kind of a toss-up of which movie do we do first. I thought that Scary Movie would be a bigger cultural thing, and it did make more money opening weekend than Masters of the Universe. But I did feel like I was just seeing a lot more ads for Masters of the Universe. And, algorithmically speaking, I was talking about both things for the podcast. So it's not like I would only be served ads for one as opposed to the other, but I was seeing Masters of the Universe a lot. I really felt like the algorithm really wanted me to go see it.
I'm sure it did. You're a male in your 40s. You're the exact target demographic. And I'm not just saying it's better than one of the bad movies that we've seen in this podcast. I genuinely had a good time.
Good.
I was smiling. I was thinking about the movie the entire weekend after. I kind of want to see it again in the theaters, to be honest.
Okay.
And I also took Carly, who had zero knowledge of anything. She had barely heard of He-Man. She said, I was shocked that that was entertaining.
Okay, for Halloween this year, can I expect a couple's costume with you and Carly? You're He-Man, she's She-Ra or Tila or Evil Lynn?
That's very interesting. They got cool swords. I think that could be good. I think He-Man and She-Ra would be cool.
Okay, will Carly like this idea?
Yeah, I think she'll be down for it. Last year we dressed up. We went to Comic-Con.
Okay.
You know, she wore a Supergirl outfit last year, which is kind of a palette swap of She-Ra. She-Ra wore a white outfit with a skirt. Supergirl is a blue top with a skirt. I think it's not much of a stretch between the two.
All right, very good. But let's get into Toy Story. So we are talking about Toy Story, the first movie this week, and then next week we'll do Toy Story 2. Week after that, we'll do Toy Story 3 because there is a new installment hitting theaters, Toy Story 5. We're not going to do an episode on Toy Story 4 because that's not 15 years old. And also, I kind of don't think we need to. I think we're good covering 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
This is the first Pixar movie that we're doing on the podcast. Also, the first Pixar movie, period. You know, just the first one that they made. I assume you've seen this movie before. Maybe some of the sequels?
Oh, yeah. I've seen all three of them
Okay.
that we're going to be covering. I saw this one in the theater back in 1995.
Okay.
Did you see it in the theater?
You know, I figured you were going to ask me that, and I was really racking my brain trying to remember. I don't think I saw it in the theater with my friends, but maybe I would have gone with my mom and stepdad and sister. I genuinely don't know, but I know that I saw it in the theater, Blockbuster, whatever. I've definitely seen this movie many, many times, and I'd seen them before kids. Although, to be fair, I have seen the Toy Story movies again with my kids. I told my daughter that we were doing these on the podcast and asked her if she wanted to watch them with me. And she was like, yeah, sure. Why not?
Toy Story was the first major computer animated film. I think I saw it with some friends from high school because it was just cool enough or acceptable enough that this kind of computer movie was being released. And it didn't hurt that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, who were at the peak of their popularity, I'd say, in the mid-90s. You know, Tim Allen had the #1 TV show in the country with Home Improvement.
Sure.
I think there was a lot going with it that it was acceptable to see, and I had a fantastic time.
Sure. For anyone who hasn't seen Toy Story, which seems like a little bit of a stretch, but just in case, this movie is about a collection of toys belonging to a kid named Andy. Andy's favorite toy is a cowboy doll named Woody, but on Andy's birthday, he gets a new toy, a spaceman action figure, Buzz Lightyear. Buzz replaces Woody as the top toy in Andy's bedroom, which makes Woody jealous. Woody tries to knock Buzz behind a piece of furniture, but inadvertently sends him flying out the window, which causes the other toys to turn on Woody. Woody and Buzz end up being taken by Sid, Andy's neighbor, who loves mutilating and destroying toys. So, Woody and Buzz have to put aside their differences to escape from Sid and return to Andy before he and his family move away. So when this movie came out in 95, it was a huge hit. Everyone wanted to go and see this new computer animated technology. People were excited about Pixar and Steve Jobs, and it just looked so cool. And of course, the franchise is still going strong. But I don't know, give me some impressive numbers, James.
Oh, sure. The film came out on November 22nd, 1995, about a $30 million budget, and it wound up opening with almost making that much in its opening weekend. $29 million opening weekend, $191 million domestically. I only saw $237 million worldwide, which seems weird.
That is weird. And out of the gate, I feel like we should just mention this movie was directed by John Lasseter. And John Lasseter was a hugely important, influential figure in Pixar, you could argue in Hollywood in general, but specifically at Pixar, he directed a lot of the early Pixar movies, Toy Story, Bugs Life, Monsters, Inc. He has since left Pixar because of some sexual misconduct allegations. He has since gone on to work at Paramount. Apparently, the Ellisons are taking people who have been quote unquote canceled by the rest of Hollywood, and they're bringing them in because they don't care about stuff like that. And I also kind of forgot that Joss Whedon was one of the writers on this movie. Back in the day, I was a huge Joss Whedon fan, loved Buffy and Angel and Firefly, but he also has been quote unquote canceled for, being a toxic, terrible person on set. Some of the stories about him are really, really disturbing. It's a bummer that those two have their names on this movie. Another problematic person, for different reasons, Steve Jobs, he gets a lot of credit for building Pixar and making Toy Story happen. And, this was before he went back to Apple, before Apple was the $1 trillion company, or did it hit trillion, or it's going to, it's close, whatever. It was not a huge, giant company in the mid 90s, but I do feel like people respected Steve Jobs, and, having his name attached to this movie did kind of give it a sense of cachet. It made people want to check it out and to see what was possible with animation. We take it for granted now that animated movies are usually computer animated, but in 95, this was a brand new thing.
Right. Another person that is hugely responsible for this film and also for Pixar's success in general is a man named Andrew Stanton.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote the film. He also wrote Toy Story 2, Bugs Life, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, WALL-E. He directed a bunch of those as well. Just this team, there's so much we could talk about Steve Jobs when he was fired from Apple and he founds Pixar and he got Lasseter in and Stanton.
Now, because Disney has purchased Pixar, if you go to the Disney parks, you can meet Woody and Buzz and Jessie and all the Toy Story characters and Inside Out characters and Monsters, Inc. And all of those characters are part of Disney. The movies are on Disney Plus, etc. But Pixar was not owned by Disney when they made Toy Story. And Jeff Katzenberg was working at Disney at the time. He knew that computer animated movies were going to be the future. He had a lot of respect for John Lasseter. He wanted to work with him. But there are stories about how Disney in general, and Katzenberg kind of specifically, were giving a lot of notes that were not helpful to this movie, and that early cuts of the movie were very, very different. Woody was sarcastic and mean, and the story didn't really have heart. And when John Lasseter and the Pixar crew were finally allowed to just make the movie that they wanted to make without the influence of Disney, that's how they were able to create this movie, Toy Story, the version that we know and love. It's only worth mentioning, I think, because people today, I think, kind of confuse or conflate Pixar and Disney as one entity. And now, yes, they are one corporate entity. But back in 95, Pixar was really trying to do its thing, which was different from the Disney thing.
Yeah, apparently this was a movie mostly made independent, and I guess Disney had the distribution rights, and when it opens, it says a Pixar animated film, and I think it's Walt Disney Presents, and these words mean different things.
Definitely. But I love the way that the movie starts with Andy playing with his toys. It just gives you a sense of joyfulness and whimsy.
It starts out with Andy holding the action figures together and, smashing them together, and there's a jail scene. And then right after that, just the difference between these limp dolls that are just, their limbs are flying around based on how Andy moves his arms. and just that fluid animation when they're done. There's one point of view shot when Andy is holding Woody, and you're seeing from Andy's point of view just running up the stairs. It really contributes nothing to the film. There's really no reason to do this except that you're simply able to do it as a computer. Much easier than, say, hand drawing, I'll bet.
Right. And then there's this staff meeting that Woody leads when Andy leaves the room and all the toys spring to life. And this scene is so effective at explaining everything. Yeah, the kind of basics of the world where once the humans leave, the toys come alive. But not even just that. The idea that Woody is in charge, he is the leader. You see that Rex really wants to be a scary dinosaur, but he can't because he's just too sweet and insecure and has too much anxiety. And we see that Woody and Bo Peep have a relationship, and also that these toys want to be played with, and their big fear is that a new toy will come along and replace them. That's obviously setting up what happens in the movie, but it also kind of goes to show how tenuous their existence is. It is also kind of interesting that Woody is not nervous about being replaced. It's all the other toys that are nervous about what the new toy will be. And Woody's trying to keep everyone calm, and then he's the one who is ultimately replaced. I really, really love this scene. Also, probably because it's filled with puns and wordplay. Woody walks by the Etch-a-Sketch and he says, draw, like pulling your gun, and then it's an Etch-a-Sketch, so it draws. And the microphone that he's talking into is called Mike. Bo Peep tells Woody that she's just a couple of blocks away, like toy blocks. Get it? I love that kind of thing. And yeah, I just feel like right out of the gate, you have a complete, total understanding of the world in a big picture sense, but also in the sense of Andy's bedroom. You just understand all the dynamics.
And it opens up just so many questions. Obviously, the ridiculousness of toys being sentient. I did notice there was a scene later when there's a remote control car at the climax. Woody, he's controlling the remote control. He throws that remote control away in frustration on the side of the road, and the car winds up going back in in Andy's toy chest at the end. But I kind of have a feeling that he's kind of a broken toy because that race car has no more remote.
Oh.
So I love the world building of this film. It's fascinating.
While Woody is worrying about being thrown out, there's also a throwaway line about being moved into the attic, which is a big plot point in Toy Story 3. That line makes sense in the context of the first movie, not as setting up a sequel, 2 sequels from now, but just, yeah, they're toys. They don't want to be put in the attic. Obviously Andy gets the Buzz Lightyear toy and then Woody is replaced. You see that Andy has a new favorite toy because you see everything on the walls change. All the cowboy stuff and the Woody stuff is replaced by space stuff and Buzz Lightyear stuff. It did kind of strike me as weird that Andy was redecorating his room within a week of moving. That's when you need to pack everything up and take things off the wall, not put new things up on the wall. But I guess he's 6, so maybe his mom's letting him.
He's 6, and there's also another theory on that. It's a couple, I'll call them internet takes or Reddit takes that have come out of this film. One of them is that this is the story of a recently divorced family. There's certainly no dad in any of these films, and it seems to be an overall happy kid. It doesn't have the appearance of a child whose father just passed away, certainly unexpectedly. The guy's going to pizza, and he's super excited and running around with birthday parties. And there were pictures on the mantle, and there's only pictures of mom and the 2 kids. If dad was dead, there'd be a picture of dad. And usually a move is either, I guess maybe you want to get away from that, but also maybe downsizing. Maybe you can't really afford this whole house now. I would also say maybe in that situation, let's get this kid a new Buzz Lightyear. Let's go to the store and just get a Buzz Lightyear poster, and that'll make his life. And he's not really thinking about the fact that daddy's not at home anymore. Probably a single mom situation.
But it could be just that she was always a single mom. and not that the dad just left. It could be that she had these kids on her own and now she's moving for work and it has nothing to do with a husband or an ex-husband.
That's true as well. There's certainly that possibility.
So Woody's jealous. He knocks Buzz out the window. They end up fighting at the gas station and they go to Pizza Planet. Pizza Planet is such a cool place. And it really boggles my mind that it does not exist at Disney World. That there is not a place called Pizza Planet where you can get pizza and play arcade games, and there can be, claw games, and you can win the three-eyed alien.
What an obvious ride. You're right.
Well, it can't be in the Toy Story land because that section is supposed to be you are the size of a toy and you are playing in Andy's backyard. So then Pizza Planet wouldn't make sense there. Fine. But then do it in the Disney Springs, like the downtown Disney area. Do it somewhere else. Like, definitely, as a kid, I would have loved it. But it just seems like such an obvious opportunity for a cool place at Disney World.
Absolutely. Every kid would want to get a way overpriced three-eyed alien that will cost 4 cents for Disney to make. It would be so obvious.
So obvious. Also, by the way, Sid is very good at the claw game. And we hate Sid, and Sid is the villain of this movie, and he's very, very mean to all of his toys, and we do not like Sid. But we have to give Sid credit where it is due. First time playing the claw game, he gets a three-eyed alien. Second time playing the claw game, he gets Buzz Lightyear and Woody because Woody's holding on to his foot. Not everyone's that good at those claw games.
Speaking of Sid, that is the other kind of hot internet take on this film. When people talk about villains who maybe aren't really villains, or they might have a point, or they're misunderstood. And people point to Sid here because, from his point of view, he's playing around with some plastic toys. What the hell is he really doing wrong? I mean, he's blowing up an army man. He doesn't know that they're sentient. And then people say, if anything, it's the toys that absolutely traumatize and maybe, mess up this kid by traumatizing him at the end. And I have to say, no. Now, do I think that Sid deserved necessarily to have this existential crisis that he's going to wonder for the rest of his life if he's insane? If that moment when he was 8 years old that these cowboys and army men, all stood up to him? It's a fair point to say whether he deserves that, but he's abusive to his sister. Even the second that his sister complains to his mom, he just immediately goes into the, Mom, whatever she says, she's lying.
Right.
This is a bad kid. Yes, he's abusing toys, which I will argue is not abuse. It's a piece of plastic from his point of view.
Right. Don't they always say, like, the psychos abuse animals when they're kids?
Right. If he was blowing up animals, I would definitely say he's messed up. But while, sure, maybe this kid doesn't have to get a traumatic, your toys are mad at you kind of moment, at 8 years old, I don't think he's a good boy. He has the makings of a future Biff Tannen high school bully.
You bring up the ending, and let's jump to it because we're talking about it. But, like, the way that Woody rescues Buzz by showing Sid that he and the other toys are sentient, I don't love that because it does feel like, well, what are the rules here in this universe? I think it just makes a little bit more sense to me if the toys can't do that. It's not that they won't. It's that, they are physically unable to in some way. Because Woody says something like, oh, we're going to have to break a few rules.
Yeah.
So these are, to use a word that I'm hearing in the news all the time, norms. These are guidelines. These are things that you are not supposed to do, but there's really nothing stopping you from doing it, which makes me think that maybe some of these other toys that Sid has mutilated maybe would have tried that somewhere along the way before they had their head cut off and attached to some other toy. There are all of these toys who are being tortured. There are all of these toys that maybe want to say that they love their person. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and talk about Toy Story 3, but at the end of Toy Story 3, when Woody says goodbye to Andy, he doesn't say it out loud and have Andy hear it. He shouldn't do that because, breaking the laws of physics and the way we understand that the world works. But wouldn't toys want to do it more? It just feels kind of like a little bit of a cop out of your Act 3 solve to just have these creatures talk to him.
Well, what it does, I think, is it creates a Superman 1 problem. At the end of the film, Lois Lane, spoiler alert for a movie that's 50 years old, Lois Lane dies and Superman turns back time
Right.
In order to rescue her. And this creates a problem because now, why didn't he do that in Superman 2 and 3 and 4? Every single time he has a problem, now it's established, oh, just turn back time and fix it.
Right.
It's the same thing here. If you're gonna cross that line, that therefore means that every single time Andy's upset about something, the toy should make something overnight and it'll be waiting for him.
The interesting thing about referencing Superman 1, then it was just Superman. And obviously, when they were making Superman 1, they knew that they were going to be making Superman 2. And the turning back time thing was supposed to be the end of Superman 2. But it is noteworthy that in both Superman 1 and Toy Story 1, they do this thing which, if you had to do it in a franchise and you do it in the last one, okay, maybe, right? Like maybe this was the thing that you were never, ever, ever gonna do, but now things are so dire that you have to do it in the last installment in the franchise. But doing it in the first one, it's gonna make problems in sequels. I don't know that they were thinking about sequels when they made Toy Story, but to do something like that in the first installment, that's extra tough.
I agree. And similarly, another rule they break, Sid's toys, you learn that the Sid's toys, which were really well done to have this kind of horror element.
Oh, yeah.
And then you learn later that they're not bad guys at all and that they're repairing the toys. I kind of think the repairing of the toys is a little bit breaking the rules too.
Sure,
because
definitely.
There's some stuff you can understand, like toys not ending up exactly where you left them. That's fine. Maybe you figure I just don't remember moving them here. It's fine that they do it, but it just, as a movie watcher, it opens up too many questions.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the Woody and Buzz dynamic. They're an odd couple. It's the same thing you've seen in a million other buddy comedies. They are two very different people. They have very different outlooks, and they don't get along until they kind of have to, and then they discover the friendship. It's not a reinvention of the wheel, and the idea of a cowboy and a spaceman that does harken back to the 50s, that Westerns were the big deal. Then there was a space race and kids became more interested in astronauts. And that is explored in Toy Story 2. But ultimately, they're both going through these very, very different existential crises, right? For Woody, he was the center of Andy's universe, and now he's not. That is a challenge to everything that he has known and believed to be true about the world. Meanwhile, Buzz Lightyear thinks that he is the real Buzz Lightyear, the real space ranger who's supposed to defend the galaxy from the evil Emperor Zurg, and he doesn't understand that he's a toy. And when he finds out that he's a toy, he has an existential crisis, which is very sad when he tries to fly and then breaks and loses his arm. It's then kind of funny when he's dressed up as Mrs. Nesbit and he's having the tea party with Sid's little sister. That made me laugh. I like when he thinks he's Mrs. Nesbit. But even though this is a lighthearted kids movie, ostensibly, there are these two dueling existential crises in the movie. That's really the heart of the movie.
I really do find the emotional scenes to be well done. I think this movie's like 85 minutes or something.
I think 81 or 82. It's short.
It's very short. I mean, I'm sure it's because of the technical limitations of the time, but it's really well done. The way they're able to put enough of this in, 85 minutes of a film.
They do pack a lot in a very little bit of time. I do think it is fair to say, though, that does make the movie feel a little small. The plot is fairly thin, and that's okay. But I was watching it with my daughter, and it was also Friday night, and she was tired. But towards the end, she's like, I'm going to bed. I was like, well, do you want to pause it? We can finish the rest tomorrow. She's like, no. And, part of that is because she's seen it before. She knows how it ends. But also, it is a smaller story, and the sequels do get bigger in scope, which is very common in many franchises. The sequels have to get bigger and the stakes have to get larger and the world has to grow and there have to be more characters, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that is a potential criticism of this movie and its short runtime. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if Act One was a little longer, if we had a little bit more time with Woody before Buzz shows up, or maybe a little bit more time with Buzz and Woody interacting before Pizza Planet. You get to that second Randy Newman song, Strange Things, pretty quick. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I wouldn't have minded a little bit more.
I probably could have had another 10 minutes of stuff. I think the beginning would probably be a good place to do it. Maybe some reference to a broken toy or a lost toy, and you kind of get the stakes of what's going on in this film. Sure, this story, while I think that you use the right word, it's small, but small is not a bad thing. It's world building. I think it establishes the relationship of Andy to the toys and the toys to themselves. I think the story is tight enough. I hear where it could be made differently, but I don't think it needed more. I think it's a tight story and it does what it needs to do.
Yeah. Just one more thing about Buzz's existential crisis. When he's watching the commercial for the Buzz Lightyear toys, they advertise that these toys are available at Al's Toy Barn, which is a big deal in Toy Story 2. And Al becomes a character.
That's a Pixar thing that they like. Isn't Pizza Planet in a bunch of other films?
Yes, and not just Pizza Planet, but specifically the Pizza Planet delivery truck that you see in this movie. And Dino Co., which is the name of the gas station that they go to in this movie, that's the brand that Lightning McQueen wants to get an endorsement deal with. I assume you've seen the theory about how all the Pixar movies are connected. Some of them make a little bit more sense than others. Some of them are a little out there.
Yeah, I've read that. It's cute, but I think it's more that at most they exist in the same universe, but an actual connection of Brave to Wall-E. Yeah, you have to stretch your imagination a little bit.
You do.
The good dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean that one's clearly in a parallel universe. So I don't know. But the ending sequence where Woody and Buzz are trying to get back to Andy and his family, that is amazing, edge of your seat stuff right there. That sequence is so good. It's something that the Pixar movies do really well, and obviously this was the first one, but they have these sequences where every little thing that could go wrong goes wrong. It's not there's an obstacle that has to be overcome. It is there's an obstacle that has to be overcome, and then another, and then another, and another, and another. First, they're able to catch up to the truck. Then there's the dog, and then they solve the dog problem, but then they're too far behind. So they have the RC car, but then the RC car runs out of batteries. They're going to use the rocket that's Sid attached to Buzz Lightyear. Woody has a match, but then the car goes by and then blows out the match, and he can't light it again. It's just relentless. And I think just a masterclass of how to do a thrilling sequence that's not just about a good guy versus a bad guy. It's not a fight. It's not punching. It's just how are these characters going to use their brains and everything around them to solve this problem. I love it.
It's well written. It's a kind of thing that probably goes over the children's heads about, every single thing goes wrong and then they solve it. But good writing and a lot of callbacks. How did they figure this out? There was a callback earlier when Woody realized that you can use a magnifying glass of sorts with the sun to light things. Very clever.
Yeah.
One thing at the end that bothered me, though, as a big fan of Slinkies, my father has kind of had a running joke ever since we were children about how Slinkies have like a 1-day shelf life, at least in our home, because eventually you're either going to twist them or you stretch them. And watching Slink, the Slinky Poodle, get kind of stretched as he falls off the truck, I was thinking, oh, Slink is gone. They have to throw out Slink after this. They do show a little scene where two of the characters are kind of pushing Slink back together and kind of compressing the spring again, but I was like, all right, fine. But Slink is dead.
That's fair. You mentioned Woody throws away the RC car's remote, so that toy is kind of useless. Also, the moving truck does seem pretty empty. They're packing up a whole house. And
Yeah.
I get for plot purposes that, the box of toys needs to be the first thing that Woody sees when he opens the truck. But it doesn't seem like there's a ton of other stuff in that moving truck. Also, when Woody and Buzz land back in the car with Andy, they fall in through the sunroof. Andy is in the back seat. The baby is in the front seat. I feel like I don't even have to say, as a father, that shouldn't be. You put the baby in the back seat. Babies don't sit shotgun in the car seat. There's no need for it. It's not even like, the car is filled with other stuff that's overflowing from the moving truck. So maybe they did kind of have to put the baby in the front. No, the car's totally empty. Really, the baby and Andy should be in the back seat. Or if any kid needs to be in the front seat, it should be Andy, not the baby.
You're absolutely right. That's a wrong thing to do. Had you done this today, they probably wouldn't have done it. It's so obvious, but that's a very good pickup. I didn't notice that at all. I did notice you'd almost think that Buzz and Woody should have fallen onto the floor or maybe like in the side of the seat, because they literally fall on the top of the box. And poor Andy's been freaking out about his two favorite toys have been missing. And not that they were under the seat the whole time, but they were literally next to you, you moron. But no, of course, the toys fell there. And Andy's happy, so you don't have to think about it too much.
Right. Also, we didn't talk about all of the other references in the movie. I mean, there's a lot of winks to Star Wars, when Buzz Lightyear is talking about he has the information that can stop the weapon that can destroy an entire planet. When they're in Pizza Planet, there's a whack-a-mole game of aliens popping out of someone's chest, like in Alien. I believe the final chase scene is a reference to a Wallace and Gromit movie.
I was going to say the final scene where Buzz and Woody are on the car reminds me of the final scene of The Wrong Trousers, which is a Wallace and Gromit animated film.
Yes. I think what it boils down to is the people who work at Pixar love movies and they have a deep respect for movies, and there's a lot of just winks and nods to other movies here. It's worth mentioning the computer animation looks amazing. This movie is 31 years old. It still looks great.
Yeah.
I bet the animation in Toy Story 5 is going to be better than the computer animation in Toy Story 1, but it doesn't look bad.
Absolutely. This film, it's shockingly incredibly good to look at today, whereas Jumanji from the same year is shockingly bad CGI.
Right. We have to talk just for a quick second about the amazing cast in this movie. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen are perfect as Woody and Buzz. Don Rickles is so goddamn funny as Mr. Potato Head. Jim Varney as Slinky Dog. We've never done any Ernest movies on this podcast. I don't know that I'm really dying to, but we could, I guess, at some point.
I've never seen any of them, so I'd actually kind of be interested in seeing what quote-unquote the best one is.
Sure. I mean, Wallace Shawn, his voice is iconic. He's so good as Rex. John Ratzenberger is wonderful as Ham, and of course, he would go on to do a voice in most, not all, but a lot of the Pixar movies as a major character or just showing up for a scene or two. Also, Annie Potts as Bo Peep. The cast is really filled with all amazing voice actors.
Oh, yeah. You also have Laurie Metcalf, who is a fantastic actress.
Sure.
Arlie Ermy, he's Sarge.
Right.
Of course, he's most famously known as the drill instructor from Full Metal Jacket.
Right.
Penn Jillette, he does the Buzz Lightyear commercial. He does a great job with that. Cast and crew, I mean, this is top notch.
Yes. But James, let me ask you about Toy Story as a whole. Do you think this movie stands the test of time?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just such a sweet story. It's humorous. It's intelligent. It's not too emotional. I mean, manipulation. And also, I love the small details. We pointed out a bunch of them earlier. There's a really nice part when Buzz notices that he's accepted as part of the tribe because he's been inscribed on his foot. Did you notice the difference between Buzz and Andy's inscription?
Yes, on Woody's foot, the N in Andy is spelled backwards.
Right.
But on Buzz's, it's spelled the right way.
Correct. Like you presumably would see, like a 3-year-old would write the N backwards, but by Andy's age, second grade or so, he presumably would be able to write it correctly.
When they're playing in the very, very beginning of the movie, the N in bank is backwards too.
I love little details like that. My nephew, Sam, every kid has a movie that they'll just watch over and over, and his was Toy Story. He called it Stoy Stoy. So to this day, our family always calls it Story Story.
Aw.
And overall, just the film it's just lovely. I think Pixar, they hit it out of the park on their first one. It was the foundation for all their success. And yeah, this film absolutely stands the test of time. What about you, Al? 1995's Toy Story. Does it still stand up today?
Yes. I can't call this movie boring, but having seen the sequels, it is a smaller story. But I think that it's a simple story about finding your place in the world, about figuring out your identity, about friendship, about the valued friendships that change over time and finding new friendships along the way. And all of these things are, yeah, maybe saccharine and sappy in theory, but this movie doesn't feel saccharine. It doesn't feel sappy. It feels just sweet, the right amount of sweet. And that's a tough thing to do. I think the movie is very funny. There are jokes that maybe you get a little bit more if you've played with these toys. Maybe if you've never played with a Mr. Potato Head, the joke about he needs to shave because there's going to be a Mrs. Potato Head that's at the very end of the movie and he just takes off the mustache. Maybe you wouldn't get it, but no, you would, because you'll figure it out. You can just very clearly see him taking off the mustache. That's not shaving. We didn't really talk that much about Randy Newman, but You've Got a Friend in Me is an iconic song. They've reused it in the sequels. The mom and the baby and Andy, when they're in front of the moving truck, they're listening to Hakuna Matata. I feel like You've Got a Friend in Me has achieved that level of Disney song fame. It is a top tier song. Everybody knows it. Randy Newman was nominated for 2 Oscars for this movie, one for the score, one for the song, You've Got a Friend in Me. He didn't win. He didn't win an Oscar for a Pixar movie until Toy Story 3 for We Belong Together. Honestly, I'd say I Will Go Sailing No More is probably my least favorite of the Randy Newman songs in the movie. That one just feels a little too on the nose.
Is that the one where Buzz tries to fly and he fails?
Yeah.
I like that one.
It's not bad. It's just not as good. Apparently, Disney wanted this movie to be a musical, which makes sense. At the time, Disney is killing it with musicals. So why not do a computer animated musical? But again, John Lasseter and the folks at Pixar were like, no, this isn't that. This movie can't be a musical. So the compromise was to have Randy Newman songs a couple times in the movie that help with the story, but it's not the characters themselves singing the songs. I completely forgot that over the end credits, there's a version of You've Got a Friend in Me with Randy Newman and Lyle Lovett. That version has not stood the test of time. I don't think anybody wants to hear the Lyle Lovett version.
I was wondering when I saw that in the credits, I was trying to think, where's Lyle Lovett's song? But it's one of those Disney things that they did in the 90s where there was the movie version and then the end credits version.
Yes, except when Disney did that with most of their other movies, it was a new singer.
Christina Aguilera doing Mulan and Celine Dion doing Beauty and the Beast.
Right. They would do that because in the movie, it was the voice actor who sang the song because the character was singing. But in this movie, when it's not Woody or Buzz singing You've Got a Friend in Me, you don't need to have someone else do it. And I guess they just figured, well, if we're not going to replace Randy Newman, let's just add Lyle Lovett. No offense to Lyle Lovett. You don't need him. But overall, this movie is wonderful. It's great. It is honestly kind of magical. It's everything that you want in a kid's movie. Also, by the way, I'm sure you could point to examples from Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and other movies that Disney had made before this where there's a joke for the adults. Here's something that's going to go over the kid's head. Sure. But I think that what Pixar did was they made kids' movies that kids can just love and adore and that work on a totally different level, start to finish, for the adults. And that was something that really hadn't been done with kids' movies prior to Toy Story. at least like on a regular basis. And Pixar cracked that code. They nailed it. So many of their movies are like that. It's one thing for the kids, it's another thing for the adults. That's a tough thing to do. And I am always impressed with Pixar and their ability to do that. And it starts here. It starts with Toy Story. And yes, absolutely, Toy Story stands the test of time.
You know, there's a part where Potato Head grabs his lips and kind of rubs them on his butt, so he's calling him a kiss ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's little things like that, but it's not one of those lines where, you know, you're gonna go, "Daddy, what does this word mean?" You know, it's not like that. So again, very clever.
I like when Woody refers to the three-eyed aliens who basically worship the claw. He calls them zealots. That's a word that a kid might not know and might want to ask mom or dad what it means. Not a bad word, but yeah, that's kind of more of a joke for the parents.
I've also read the character that's sometimes referred to, one of Sid's toys that's sometimes referred to as Legs. You know what it's also referred to as?
What?
A hooker.
Oh.
Because it's got these long legs and then it has a big hook coming off of it.
Right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we will continue with Woody and Buzz as we watch Toy Story 2. Very much looking forward to that. In the meantime, we want to hear from you guys. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. You can comment on Spotify, comment on YouTube, subscribe. Make sure you don't miss any episodes. Keep listening, keep talking with us, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.